Hey, what's going on, guys? This is the Leafs Convo podcast for Oakridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. It is Sunday, May 24th, 2020, a lazy, hazy Sunday in Canada, Memorial Day weekend in the United States. I'm Norm in LDN. My brother from another mother is in Bilo, the one and only Michael P. Augello. Michael P., I think we're on track to some sort of a playoff-ish scenario for the NHL. I need some hockey, and I need it now. How are you?
Good morning, Norman. I think that people who were, I guess, not optimistic that things would go forward have something to think about now because the Players Association Executive Board voted 29-2 in favor of a 24 team playoff format that the Return to Play Committee came up with. So I think that's the first step. There are going to be a few little wrinkles, but nothing of major consequence. I think probably we're going to hear an announcement from the league early next week about this 24 team playoff format. And they're probably not going to announce a hard and fast schedule, but from what I have heard, and the indications are they would have training camp in probably mid-June and leading into a playoff starting mid-July, which just by happenstance, and I've said this a few times, coincides with NBC and I think CBC in Canada with their Olympic coverage, which is not happening. So they have a big gap of coverage for
Sure.
almost 3 weeks, and the NHL will fill that gladly.
Sports, I believe, is going to come back en masse, safely, properly. That will be arguable. But sports are itching to come back. Fans want sports to come back. And people who own the sports desperately wanted to come back because we're losing so much money. And when we see the return of sports, we're also going to see the return of millions and millions and millions of dollars coming back into the communities, into the, most importantly, at the end of the day, the pockets of the people who fund sports, and they need every single penny. And I hate to act like I'm feeling sad for billionaire owners, but we don't have it unless they own it and they pay for it, and they pay for it through profit, and there's not much profit going on right now. So we need to return to not necessarily normalcy, but a new configuration of sports. I've always been not a denier but a detractor of summer hockey. People who play hockey all summer and don't take a break. I mean, good God, go play soccer or horseshoes or water ski or something like that. But I'll take all the summer hockey I can get right now, Mike.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm anxiously looking forward to it. Obviously, from a selfish point of view, I would like to not be writing Leaf report cards. I'd like to be reporting on games that occur and summer transactions and things of that nature, and trades and free agency. I mean, that's the norm at this time of year. And obviously, everything that's happened has thrown everything for a loop. But your point about economics, I mean, yes, it's tough to feel anything for billionaire owners or millionaire players, but there are also thousandaire fans and people who cover the sports who I think are looking forward to actual games to write about and actual stories on the ice, and that's I think important too. So I was confident we would see it. It was just a question of when. I think we'll see it, like I said, in July. I think we're going to see Major League Baseball unless the players and the owners just can't get to an agreement on, their fiscal situation. And the NBA apparently is going to Disney World, which is, boy, is that appropriate. So we're going to have sports. It's going to be weird. They're not going to be fans in the stands for a while, but we're going to have sports.
It's not as if here, Mike, we're talking, well, let's see how it plays out. Just right now, my brain is designed to want to go, and it's almost as if it's coronavirus be damned. Is everything that happens accompanied by a concern over what has happened to this entire planet over the last 2 months and what could happen if things aren't done properly?
Well, I saw the videos yesterday. I think it's Trinity Bellwoods Park down near the lake in Toronto, and the number of people that were there. And I mean that's I mean, that's an expression of just the frustration of being pent up in condos and apartments and houses for 2.5 months. You knew some things like that were going to happen. It's happening in the beaches in the U.S. I think the situation sports wise though is, and I've said this a few times, if you're going to shut down the league, if you're going to come back and then shut down the league over one positive case, then don't bother opening up, because there's going to be a positive case. There's going to be somebody during this whole thing that does test positive for COVID-19. And if that's going to be, if all of a sudden you're going to shut down everything, like apparently the Korean Baseball League has said, if one person tests positive, we're shutting down. Okay, you can't do that. You can't start up and then
Yeah.
shut down. What you do is you isolate the person and you hope that it hasn't spread to other people. And if it has, then you have a situation on your hands, because then, that could, that in the construct of the playoff format, if a team can't field a team because 10 people are sick, then you have a problem. But one case, I don't think, is going to dissuade the NBA, Major League Baseball, or the NHL from
Hmm.
shutting things down. Now that they're going to test everybody, they're going to test them ad nauseum. They're playing in hub cities and trying to, keep them away from like the interaction with everyone to prevent the infection from spreading. But the thing is, there's no vaccine and there's no way to really stop it. So you have to assume that it's going to happen. But with athletes, more, like they're young, healthy guys. And I know there are a few like Max Domi with pre-existing conditions that you'd have to worry about. But mostly it's like, you've heard 10, 15 professional athletes in various sports who've tested positive for COVID-19,
Hmm.
and none of them have had any ill effects. So
Yeah.
I think that has been ramped up a little bit, but obviously it's a concern for the families and for older people like coaches and general managers in this league who are in that age bracket that could be at risk.
I'm not tamping down my concern for COVID or any infection, but it's not like sickness hasn't run rampant through a locker room in the past. It's not
Mm-hmm.
new. It has happened. Clearly, this is at a different level, not just because of the newness of COVID-19 and what it can do and how it is spread and how it has been reacted to. But we have to prepare for instances where players or people or fans do get sick. And we're going to have some sort of reaction to it that is not a complete shutdown of everything because someone has contracted this effing thing. We are human beings. I mean, we've sent people to the moon. We have developed nuclear weapons. We're working on a cure for cancer. We're pretty smart. We will adapt.
We know that disease or colds get spread in locker rooms. We've seen that with the mumps a few years ago, and everybody thought that was funny because the mumps aren't fatal, but COVID-19 conceivably is fatal with certain people with pre-existing conditions and other factors. But what will be interesting, and I heard we talked about this on the Buzzcast a couple days ago, is like how will they do social distancing with players, especially if they're doing a hub with 12 teams. There's going to be a schedule of games, and you're probably not going to have the teams going into the same locker rooms. They may, have teams basically have locker rooms in the concourse of the arena because there'll be plenty of space and there won't be any fans there. So you can set up a sort of impromptu locker room there. And for social distancing on the bench, you could have players basically, if they remove a section of seats and have players sitting on benches in the stands and remove some of the glass so they can hop over the boards. I mean, there are probably going to be things like that because there are going to be no fans in the stands. So there's going to be a few changes, but I think we'll when we see the game back on the ice in mid-July, I think we're going to see a game that we're very familiar with. I think that will still be hitting. There'll still be
Yeah.
some sort of contact. They can't like outlaw fighting, and they can't outlaw players. I mean, I hope players don't spit on the ice or shoot snot rockets, but I have a feeling they're going to end up doing it because they've been doing it their entire lives.
Can't these guys be tested? There has to be some sort of incubation period or isolation period before these guys are able to, become one as a group. I just don't see any reason why the setup for hockey cannot remain the same. Sure, socially outside of the rink, and you just may not want to do it because you don't feel comfortable with doing it based on everything that we've heard or read or the things that we've witnessed and just sort of the way society is trending right now. Unless you're at Trinity Bellwoods Park. By the way, I grew up playing baseball there. Any Toronto heads? I know we have tons of listeners from Toronto. Anybody from that neighborhood? Early to mid 80s, baby. And even late 80s, too. I'm not going to date myself that much. Toronto Parks and Rec. Go down to Trinity. Coming out of Regent Park, just dominating. But, Mike, like the idea of guys sitting in the third or fourth row in the stands and stuff doesn't make any sense. It's like, I don't want to be near a guy that might be sick, but he's in the locker room with me. No, none of these players can be sick. How the hell are they going to be sick? Is there no way to determine that, hey, you're not sick, you can come play. None of us are sick. Let's play.
No, but what I'm saying is, I mean, the thing is that these tests are not like 100%
Yeah.
completely. There's always room for, and if you are, and I'm not saying like they're going to be sitting 5 rows up in the stands, but they'll probably clear out 2 rows like right along the ice, clear out 2 rows of seats and put a bench there. So they can hop over the boards just like anybody on the normal bench, and they can do that because there's not going to be fans in the stands. I mean, it's sort of a just. I mean, and there's no guarantee they're going to do this, but if they're being tested and they're being tested every day or 3 or 4 days a week, then maybe that's not necessary. But I think to be preventative in terms of if one guy has it and then maybe you stop the spread from everybody else if they're not sitting in close proximity.
Well, we know you're from New York State. Buffalo, greatest city on the planet. There have been cases in Buffalo. It's serious everywhere, but nowhere near the level of how the pandemic has just overridden and dominated and decimated New York City. Right now, there's 8 million in New York City proper, like 15 million in the whole area. It's insane that you can pack that many damn people into that small geographical region.
And 30% of the deaths have come in that tri-state area: Connecticut, New Jersey, New York. So, I mean, that was a contributing factor. Plus, I've heard that, the areas that have international airports like New York, who has 3 of them, that was a contributing factor. So, yeah.
But, there are regions where the COVID-19 effect is nowhere near what it is, in the hot spots. So, if you're having hub cities, having hub areas, you have to trust that what you're creating there is a safe zone for people to continue to be who they are and do what they do. If hockey or the things that we love, change for the better in terms of the way we interact, from going from point A to point B, and the way we socialize. I understand, especially in these times. But if the game looks completely different, it doesn't make any sense anymore because we're all afraid to have any sort of human contact. And like, what the hell? Just cancel it all until everything goes away, and it never will, Mike. It never will. People are going to be sick. There's going to have to be some sort of recourse after someone gets sick. There's going to be testing, and there's going to be concern, but we can't live in total fear for the rest of our lives. We're going to have to make an adjustment to what has happened, and beat this thing in the best way we possibly can. And the other thing too, there are a lot of people, Mike, and I sound like a wingnut here, but it's true. There are a lot of people who had COVID-19, didn't even know it, and were able to get over it. And it didn't affect them to the same degree it affected others. Not minimizing the impact of this thing in any way, shape, or form. However, we can't run and hide for our entire lives. We have to combat this head on. Columbus and Toronto, first round matchup. That would be fun, do you think?
Of all the scenarios, because with little or nothing to write about, a lot of people have been saying, okay, if there's one playoff format, it's going to be this. If there's another playoff format, it's going to be that. I mean, it's been Montreal, it's been Buffalo, it's been Tampa Bay. Now they're going to, and this has come out of the return to play committee, so it sounds like that this will be the model that they use. It's a 24 team playoff with the bottom 8 teams, so 5 through 12, meeting up in a best of 5 preliminary or play-in round to get to the round of 16. So, they're going to have the top 4 teams who have a bye in the East would be Boston, Tampa Bay, Washington, and Philadelphia play a 3-game round robin so they can determine who's the top seed, and then the other 8 teams will play this play-in round, and based on point percentage, which is the amount of points divided by the games played, which for the Leafs was 70, and then you multiply it to 82, and what their point percentage would have been. The Leafs, I think, were just under 95 points. They finished 8th in the conference, and they would face the number 9 team, which was Columbus. And honestly, I can't think of, and if this is typical of the Leafs, I can't think of a worse matchup because Columbus succeeded beyond people's wildest dreams last year with the exodus of Panarin and Bobrovsky and Matt Duchene. They stayed in the playoff race. Tortorella probably will win Coach of the Year for the job that he did, not only because they were successful with those players departing, they had a slew of injuries, especially late in the season. They were tied for one of the wild card spots. They had lost Bjorkstrand. They had lost their leading scorer in Cam Atkinson. They had lost Seth Jones. They were going to be, if they made the playoffs, they were going to be limping in and probably would have lost to Boston in quick fashion. Now, with 4 months off, all those players are going to be back. Now, you don't know what that long layoff is going to do. You don't know what it's going to do to teams like Boston or Toronto or Columbus, but just with the fact that they're getting all their injured players back, that makes them a pretty tough out. Now, I think the Leafs, the fact that they're an offensive team, and I heard Kevin Allen on our podcast on Friday say, he thinks that the offensive teams will have the advantage because defense is more work and offense is more talent. I agree to that scenario, but we know the tough time that the Leafs had against defensive-minded clubs this year. So I think it'll be a tough out for them.
The Leafs versus Columbus will be an intriguing matchup. Here's the thing. We've had such a long layoff that when these teams come back, it's possible, if not probable, that what we'll see from them will be different than what we saw from them, right? It's literally been an off season. So a lot of the things we didn't like about the Leafs might not be there when they resume play. What we knew is no longer what we'll know. You know what I'm saying? Last word to you.
I mean, you're making a very good point. I mean, say, for example, a team like the New York Rangers were red hot right before the pause. They may not be red hot. They may, things may reset and everybody's on an equal playing field because everybody has been off for all this time. And it will all depend on like who was able to stay in shape and who was able to skate. And I know they'll have a training camp, but I think the fact that some of these players were able to stay active during this time is going to be beneficial going forward, even after a training camp. So yeah, there's a lot of factors. The one thing I look at with the Leafs, and like I said, it's like, I mean, I don't think this has changed. They're bringing back the same defense, and their defense now, Muzzin will be back, Riley will be back, but even with those guys, they were challenged defensively at times. It's a team mindset. So I don't know if that has changed, and that like I have to be convinced. So do I think they can beat Columbus? Do they think they could possibly beat whoever they face in the next round? Yes, but they're going to have to play a little bit differently than they did before the season was paused. And I don't know if that's possible. We'll see.
There will be measures put in place and expectations based on everything we've gone through. My feeling is that um, as time progresses, and it will progress quick on the new era of hockey, we will see the hockey of old that we've come to love and appreciate so much. There will be light treading in the early going, but it will pick up steam quite quickly, and that makes me really excited about what's to come. You know what? We've taken a real shot to the jaw as a society, um, knocked us down a bit. We're on our way up, and we're going to deal with this damn thing, and hockey's going to help us deal with it. Michael, talk to you soon, buddy.
Thanks.